So in this video, what we're going to do is we're going to make a Lazy Susan, and we're going to start working on the armature for our sculpture of his head. So I have this Lazy Susan here, which is what I normally use. It's an expensive one. It's I think I got it like at a pottery store. I just want something a little bit bigger for the size and weight of Cat's head here. I got these at Lowe's. Here's me going to Lowe's to get them. You can see the price and what I got exactly. This was at Lowe's too. This is just a Lazy Susan ring, which we're going to attach to it, center it, attach it. We're going to put a top on it, and we're going to make a nice sturdy Lazy Susan to start our sculpture on. What we're going to start off doing is finding the center to this circle. 9 inches is our center point. 9 inches here, pretty darn close. So yeah, measuring I'm not the greatest at. Screw our screws in. Drill our pilot holes for this side. So now we're drilling pilot holes because we have to come in through the base. Hit it with some sandpaper. We line those up. Set this guy. This will be our lid. Kind of center it. The problem with these Lowe's bases is they're not usually perfect as center. That's pretty good though. From there, other screws, and we go in through the top. Keep it lined up. There we go. So the side with the holes will be our bottom. Let's hit that again with some. That's the Lazy Susan. And then this is our sculpture base. Big boy. Because this head is huge. So I went ahead and I built this armature with just cut pieces of 2x4. You can see here on the bottom 4 big screws, washers. Drilled those in so they're inset a little bit so they're not like horrendously, they're not poking out, causing your base to be wobbly on the Lazy Susan. There's just 2 screws holding these pieces together, these 2 pieces with the wood glue, and then the 2 screws here, wood glue, and then I drilled 4 holes in the top through most of the first 2x4 to get the length of screw I wanted into the top piece going into this one, and a little bit of wood glue sandwiched in there. You're probably looking about, I'm thinking maybe like 100 pounds at most of clay is going to be on this. So a lot of people like filling in the empty space with rigid foams or chicken wire and stuff like that. I like just getting straight into clay. When you're building an armature, you always got to think too about, I mean, nothing's worse than when you're sculpting and you hit the armature underneath. And then you got to like pound it down or get in there and cut it away, or if it's a rail that you're hitting, you got to cut the sculpture away, cut it shorter, reapply the clay. I mean, that's the worst. So I like just having a thin, basic, small armature, and then we just get right into packing clay on. Center post, T-bar. You can see by the size of the head roughly how much, I mean, that's kind of roughly how much space we're going to have on each side, you know, with the curve of his head. Now, one of the reasons why I put the big T-bar here, when you get the clay on there, things are going to want to slide down. This big support bar here, we'll be able to pile the clay on, have the clay underneath, and that'll hold it really well. And what we're going to do is we're also going to get armature wire. This I just went ahead and bought off Amazon. I got 3 spools of that. That's a quarter inch thick wire here. What we're going to do, wrap the wire around this thing, and that'll hold the clay, that'll grip it all on there. Nothing's going to slide. There's no flat surface. That'll, you know, it'll be held on. We'll probably wrap around here a little bit too, because I'm thinking the bottom of the neck will be around here. And another reason why I did this, what I'm doing is I'm sculpting this up so high, like the bottom of his neck will probably be here, it'll come up and do this, right? And this gives me plenty of room down here, because how we're gonna mold this is we're gonna build a wall using shims. We're gonna shim the whole head around here, and we're going to do fiberglass resin molds on each side. So when I was doing this armature, when I was setting this up and the length I wanted this to be, I was also thinking, where's the end of my sculpture? How much room do I have underneath here to build that flange and to get in there? Because nothing, you don't want to do your sculpture way down here and then there's no way to mold it, right? You have no room. So I'm doing this high up so I have plenty of room to access the bottom, to build a flange, to do the fiberglass and stuff comfortably, cut that off, and then be able to pop this open when that mold's done. For some molds, you know, you lay them down like this when your sculpture's finished. You can do a clay wall, but because he's so heavy and the head's so big, I'm just going to mold this standing up, how it is. I don't want to risk tipping it. You know, this might possibly giving way. I made it pretty darn sturdy with those huge screws and the wood glue, but it's just something I don't really want to deal with. This is a lot easier, a lot quicker. Might give us a little bit worse seam line, but that's okay because we're going to go over how to seam our heads nicely where you won't even see it, so it doesn't matter. But the first step, when you have your raw wood armature like this, if you're doing aluminum railing or something, you don't have to worry about this, but wet clay, since it is a water-based clay, dries very fast on the wood. The wood absorbs the moisture of the clay. So if we were to start sculpting on this as is, the sculpture would start drying out from inside out, and that would cause it to start cracking really bad. So we're going to put a handful of layers of shellac on this to seal the wood so it doesn't absorb any moisture. So when we have the clay on there, nothing is getting sucked in. There's the moisture staying in the clay, and it's drying from the outside, right? Drying from the outside in. We're gonna just start brushing the shellac on, and I'll probably do down here too, because I like to have like a blob of clay that I'm taking clay from or putting clay on. We have the shellac, traditional amber. Let's get that open. We're going to start just brushing that on. And like I said, we're just shellacking this. Keep the clay from drying out from the inside out. For some people, sculpting, you know, could take them a weekend and then they'll have a finished piece, but I like taking my time. The sculpture usually takes me a month. Armature like this, and if we wrap the sculpt really nicely on with trash bags and moist towels and stuff, it ain't gonna dry out. It'll be easy peasy. Might get some mold on it, but it ain't drying out. Now, if you're working with an oil clay, don't have to worry about this at all. Doesn't matter. So I'm just brushing this on. Doesn't have to be even or anything. Just kind of a nice coat. And we'll go over this a couple more times throughout the day as it's just air drying. And we're doing other stuff. Yeah, this was about $80. And that's with the Lazy Susan. I mean, you got to figure, if you already have a Lazy Susan, eliminate that cost. But if you don't, now you have a Lazy Susan that's going to last years. But that's pretty good. So that's our layer 1. For now, let that dry. And then after our 3 layers are done, after we do 3 or 4 layers, then we'll get into wrapping this armature around, making that super sturdy. And then after that, it's sculpting time. So let's do our second coat. Sweet. So now we're going to do the final layer. We're going to do the final layer on the armature now. Layer 3. Lots and lots of shellac. So the shellac layers are dry. 3 layers of shellac. And now we're just going to get the 1/4-inch armature wire. Here it is. We just kind of just wrap it like this. Maybe let's do another. Maybe we'll stick some thin wire on there too, just to make it really crazy. That's pretty good. That's all you need. Nothing fancy. So now that we have our armature done, we're going to start thinking about the sculpture.